Right, hello everyone. Welcome to our latest webinar in the TNZ Domestic Series, The Art of a Good News Stories. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes for people to join and get settled in, and then we'll kick off. This is when we need background music.
Do you want me to sing?
You can, Lauren, please.
It probably wouldn't be good for anyone, actually.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one. I'm not a great singer either. But yeah, we'll just give it a minute or so for everyone to get settled and then kick it off. Okay, well, if we get started, welcome everyone. Appreciate your time on this busy Thursday morning. Hopefully you can see my screen there. So just before we get started, can I just ask the audience, anyone that's dialed in, just to pop yourselves on mute so that we just avoid any interruptions. As I said, welcome to the latest of the Tourism New Zealand's domestic webinars, The Art of a Good News Story. So I'm Jen, the Domestic Partnerships Manager here at TNZ. And I'll just do a quick market update before we kick off into the guts of the webinar. Today we've got joining us our experts from Stuff. So a big warm welcome to Angela, Trupti and Brooke from our Stuff team. They're going to take you through sort of stories that stick, tips and tricks and how to make a story go viral, etc. What they look for when working with partners such as yourselves and in crafting a good news story. And then we're going to pass over to our TNZ PR team, Lauren and Alan, who are going to take us through the TNZ content partnerships and how you can utilise them in your own business. And then at the very end, we will do a quick Q&A for any questions that you may have that pop up. Now at the bottom of your screen, if you kind of wiggle your mouse, you'll see a Q&A button pop up. You're welcome to type any questions that you have in there throughout the presentation. And then at the end of the webinar there, we'll jump in and answer those questions for you. Okay, so if we kick off, I'm just going to start, you may have seen this one before, but just to run through what it is that the domestic team at TNZ are working on. So as you will be familiar with, domestic travel in New Zealand is worth about $18 billion, and there's an additional $9 billion that travels offshore every year, Kiwis heading off to the Gold Coast and Fiji, etc. So this $9 billion is what we at TNZ in the domestic team are trying really hard to capture, fighting with all of those backyard pool installations and kitchen renovations and camper vans. So we're trying as hard as we can to secure as much of that $9 billion into the domestic travel industry and really help support that gap of internationals. So our strategy in a nutshell is really to get Kiwis to participate in the tourism economy, as I said. How we're going to do that is encouraging Kiwis to be more experiential and venturesome in their approach to Kiwi holidays. So instead of just going to the beach and the big outing being the supermarket and the ice cream shop, maybe on your drive there, what are you going to do? The drive home, etc. Adding a new activity into those journeys and that time at the beach. So that's our aim, is to change mindsets and behaviour by adding new into a New Zealand holiday. And this is how we're going to do it. So upselling existing holidays, so introducing those new behaviours for incremental spend. So as I said, adding that new activity into the summer batch holiday experience, or unlocking a new experience. So creating those new behaviours and habits. So for example, tour New Zealand like you would tour on a long haul holiday, you know, jump on a coach and do a coach tour of the South Island, or spend up large like you would on those once in a lifetime experiences overseas. And I'm pleased to say that our campaigns are working. So we launched our first domestic campaign back the 22nd of May. So some figures for you running through since May to September. We've had 4 campaigns activated in the market. Hopefully you've seen them, one if not all. So our Do Something New New Zealand campaign launch, you hopefully didn't miss that. And then we had our winter ski campaign, which unfortunately got cut a little bit short with the return of Auckland back into level 3 lockdown. We've then just recently been in market with our level 2 re-entry campaign throughout the country, and we also ran a separate campaign in Auckland targeting Aucklanders, simply to assist the Auckland region there as they were so heavily impacted by that return lockdown to level 3. So you can see there the MRTE figures, basically the transaction figures throughout the country in July were up 24% year on year. August MRTEs were flat, which is an incredible feat despite the Auckland lockdown. So when you consider that 1.6 million Aucklanders were restricted from leaving Auckland, that's a fantastic feat to generate that much revenue throughout the country. So to date, our campaigns have generated over 3 million, we've reached over 3 million people through our TV ads, our outdoor billboards, etc., and our digital channels. And a figure that I'm really, really thrilled about is 75,000 visits to newzealand.com per week. So that's our website. Operators are welcome to feature their product up on newzealand.com, and obviously you'll benefit from those 75,000 visits. We do have some October figures coming out in the coming weeks that will be reflective of our October school holiday figures. So stay tuned on that. So that's tourismnewzealand.com. You'll be able to find those data points there. So to take you through a little bit of data that's just been released, and you may have seen this in the media on the weekend. So very pleased to say 71% of New Zealanders intend to take a holiday within New Zealand in the next 12 months, which has been an uplift from 64% from when we ran the same survey back in May. And as you can see on the right-hand side there, there's a breakdown of the demographic split of that. Compared to May, more New Zealanders are planning to take a domestic holiday during Labour weekend, Christmas, New Year period, and the summer school holidays. So the big one there, Christmas and New Year period, up to 46%, up on 30% back in May. Labour Day, obviously just around the corner, up from 15% earlier in the year, and then those summer school holidays. And then on the right-hand side is a breakdown again of the reasons for travel. Are they going on holiday? Is it visiting friends and family, etc.? And there's also been an increase in positive perceptions of how well New Zealand holidays deliver to expectations compared to May 20. So this one's a fantastic story of obviously everything that Tourism New Zealand is doing in our campaign work. You know, we're really sharing that New Zealand holidays are good value, are different, are exciting. And as you can see, since May, the public are starting to appreciate that as well. So they're going on holiday and actually coming back and sharing that these are fantastic experiences. So up from 49% earlier in the year, and then there's some feedback on the right there. Now, all of this information is available at tourismnewzealand.com on our corporate website if you'd like to take a deeper dive or have a look further into that, into these reports. To run you through a little bit of what's coming up for the domestic team in terms of the campaign space. At the moment, we have got a camper van campaign running through digital and social media. So you may have been targeted in that already. So encouraging you to hire a camper and get out and see the country. And then we've got live just yesterday is an urban content campaign. So that's really focusing on our big cities, the big 5 cities of New Zealand, and encouraging Kiwis to go and visit those big regions, showing all of the little hidden gems. It's a very different campaign for us. It's taking a lens of never have I ever. So if you remember that game from university days, I dare say, yeah, never have I ever been to Wellington and had peanut butter on toast standing in a gorgeous alleyway. There's so many little tips and tricks and hidden gems that are featured in that campaign. So if you haven't seen it yet, definitely make sure you check it out. And then next week, as of Tuesday, you are not going to be able to miss this. Our big summer firework moment is going to kick off. So this is sort of the prelude to our summer campaign. As I said, you're not going to be able to miss it. And so we hope that you enjoy it as much as we do. We are a little bit addicted to it, to be honest. It's been a long time coming for us. So we're very, very excited about Tuesday's launch. And as I said, that'll prelude into our summer campaign, which will run from early November through to mid-January, and really focus on, yes, we've got obviously summer holidays coming up. We know you're going to go to the Batch. That's great. And as I said earlier, how can we get you to do a few more activities while you're at the Batch? So instead of the ice cream shop being the sole benefactor of your summer holiday, maybe you can get out and do some tourism attractions as well. That'll then lead us into another urban campaign, so another city-focused campaign. That'll be a full campaign that you'll see, for example, TV, radio, etc. And that'll kick off in the middle of January through to the end of February, leading us into a school holiday campaign, so a real families focus. And then mid-April, we'll move on to a passion point campaign. So, for example, cycling, golf, food and wine, etc. So if any of these kind of resonate with you, make sure you keep an eye on our website and keep in touch, because there's a lot of ways that you can leverage these campaigns through your own marketing as well to really give yourself some extra bang. Throughout everything, and always on for us, is our hashtag Do Something New NZ. If you joined us for our webinar last month, you would have remembered Joan talking all about this. So just a reminder to be using this in all of your social media, and that gives you exposure across all of our audiences, and also our social team have the ability to, and the exposure to then repost and give your operation a bit of extra exposure across our domestic and international audiences. And as I mentioned, if you're not listed on newzealand.com, please be in that platform. Make sure you load. There's a lot of good guides and tips of how to make your listing on newzealand.com really stand out from the rest. In the last 6 months, it's generated over 450,000 visits to operate a website. So the newzealand.com platform is quite literally a platform featuring operators. Travellers will click on there, click on an operator, and it takes you right through to your own operator website. So there's no interference by newzealand.com. We are literally a facilitator. So if you're not listed on there, as I say, make sure you get on there, because that's a nice, cheap, easy freebie for you. And just before I hand over to the staff team, I just wanted to take you quickly through the commitment that TNZ has made to New Zealand. So our aim is really to enrich New Zealand through the contribution of tourism. We do this through these 4 pillars: economy, nature, culture, and social. And we really challenge and encourage you to also take these 4 pillars into your own businesses. They make great news stories, which I'm sure the staff team will expand on in a moment. You know, how does your business really support your local economy? How are you restoring nature through your operation? How are you sharing our cultural stories? There's a lot of great themes there that you can really enhance on when you're working with media partners, but as well in your own business, just to really help support, obviously, Tourism New Zealand's goal in building a greater New Zealand. Alrighty, now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass over to Angela, Trupti and Brooke, who are going to jump in, share their screen and take you through some little gems from their site. There we go.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Jen. What a welcome. Hello, everybody. We are absolutely delighted to be here today with you. And happy Thursday as well. We're nearly at the weekend. My name is Angela, and I am in the commercial team here at Stuff. And with me today is our travel editor, Trupti Birudar.
Hi.
And we also have on the line with us our travel journalist, or one of our travel journalists, Brooke Sabin, who many of you no doubt have been in touch with, both Brooke and Trupti, and possibly myself. So it's a pleasure to be here today. I am going to click to sharing my screen, and hopefully it works. Jen, just give me a thumbs up if that's working for you. Perfect. Whoops. Okay, so when you talk to staff, you talk to holidaymakers, and we're very excited to be able to share with you I'm a fan of agendas so that everybody knows where we're at. First of all, for those that don't know, or even if you do know us, it's always good to provide a bit of an update around who the heck we are, what we do and who we reach. But really the middle part is the most exciting part, and I think that's going to be really helpful to you too, for us to really do a deep dive with our editorial team around stories that stick, and how you can pitch tips and tricks with our editorial team, and touching on content marketing or sponsored content, as many of you are doing. And finally, we are absolutely delighted to be a key partner with Tourism New Zealand, who are a fantastic team to work with, both at TNZ and Stanley Street. And thank you all very much too for everything that you guys have been doing as part of this partnership, and for all of your input too. So to kick things off, in an absolute nutshell, Stuff knows how to connect with New Zealanders. On any given day, we have around 1.4 million unique visitors that come to stuff.co.nz. They spend around 15.8 minutes on average on site, which is pretty epic. Although I know myself, you know, the first thing you do, right, when you wake up in the morning, you're having a look at your apps, you're having a look at the news. People come to our homepage, they navigate through stories from there, and we're very appreciative of that. We have a significant travel audience on the travel section of Stuff alone, and I think these guys upload, around a significant number of stories a day?
Probably around 10 to 15 stories in a day. Yeah.
So the editorial team have completely different targets, and the advertising and commercial side, we're always going to hit revenue targets, and in editorial it's a completely different set of targets and metrics. We actually have over 45 newspapers across the country, but 10 of which have dedicated travel content. So key travel days for us are Sundays and Mondays. Sunday with the Sunday Star Times Stuff Travel lift out, and Monday in all of our daily papers. We have 9 daily newspapers across the country with travel content. And I'm sure many of you, if not all, are readers of our website and print products. So thank you very much for supporting us in that way too. I won't dwell too much on this slide, but if we break it down and look at an overall weekly reach of Stuff, we reach around 2.3 million Kiwis in any given week. And that's a snapshot around our weekly print audience. We of course have Play Stuff, which is a free to view video hub. We have a dedicated events team. We have Neighbourly, which is our social community based forum. And of course I've mentioned stuff.co.nz. Recently, Tripti took it upon herself to do a survey. We're always looking for ways that we can, you know, find out information and engage with our audience, would you say? You're always doing that through, of course, polls, integrated interactive tools. But this was actually a really chunky survey, I think, and thanks to Tourism Hawke's Bay, there was a trip that people could win. We blasted it out across all of our platforms to generate sort of some sentiment and insight. And we had around 13,500 people take part and actually complete this survey, which took about 10 minutes to do. So from that, these are just some highlights. 81% of our audience intend to travel in New Zealand in the next 6 months, which is not too dissimilar from the latest research that Jen has shared with you. The 85% intending to travel by car and 56% by plane. That question was a tick, all that apply. So those mathematicians out there, if you're like, Angela, can you count? I actually can, but the question was tick, all that applies. I think that's really interesting. Actually, quite a high percentage intend to travel by plane, which is great news for our airline partners. But I know that the car, especially around those brands and organisations, operators that are targeting interregional travel, that's actually quite important. What surprised me was the length of time that people are intending to travel, and I think that's really positive too. The most popular length of time was 4 to 7 days. And the other point that was really cool to find out, and something that's close to our hearts, was that the majority of people who took part in the survey admitted to, of course, knowing about the big ticket items, but not knowing about our hidden gems. And I think that's something that we're really big on, aren't we, Trip Team? We'll get to that in just one second. And finally too, we asked questions around what type of travel are you interested in, and it turns out we love to eat and drink. No surprises there, right? Give me a platter on a Friday afternoon. 78% are most interested in food and drink experiences. And as you may have seen with Brooke and Rada's sort of video content on our site, it is those sort of foodie videos that always kick off. We also asked, where do you find your New Zealand travel inspiration? And of course, this is our audience, right? So they are looking to our print and digital products. No surprises there around friends and family being the top place that people find travel inspo. But actually, we were really nicely impressed by the news sites like Stuff and newspapers and magazines coming through. And actually, I can't forget our magazines because we have beautiful publications. New Zealand House and Garden, New Zealand Gardener, for example, are part of our stable here, along with our newspaper inserted magazines too. So that was great to see. And for us, it does tie back to our place in the market, which really is that being a trusted source of information is key to Kiwis. And for us here at Stuff Media, it's all around trust and credibility, being a mirror of New Zealand, informing Kiwis, but inspiring them too with content that these guys, and I'm pointing to Brooke and Tripti and team, have actually experienced for themselves. So this might actually be quite a good segue over to Tripti, because I have, of course, quoted you here, Tripti.
I'll just read my own quote out. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here to share something that's quite close to our heart, which is really the focus of our editorial content and how we see our role in helping revive domestic tourism. And I'll throw over to Brooke in a little while because he's really the guru on how to make stories that stick. But what I really would like to say is that over the last 6 months, we focused quite hard on domestic content, and thanks to all of you who've supported that with Famils and just keeping us informed on everything that's going on. And our Back Your Backyard campaign just went gangbusters for us, and we've seen just incredible audience success from it, and it was really quite lovely to see that. We had a lot of people email us telling us that they had no idea of the experiences that we're writing about and that we're showcasing with our video. And so it was quite interesting to see. And we just think that there's quite a world of stories left to tell in New Zealand. So we're quite excited about that.
Especially finding those hidden gems, hey?
Yes. So at Stuff, we're quite a small but mighty travel team. We look after obviously all the content on Stuff Travel, but also all the print content that you see across our 10 daily papers. So Lorna and myself are based in Auckland, and Alan and Siobhan are based in Wellington. So I'd encourage you to feel free to reach out to any one of us. And I'd like to introduce Brooke, who has been working with us for maybe 2 to 3 years now, if I'm not mistaken. Brooke and Rada are 4 years. I am mistaken. Wow, that's gone by really quickly. Brooke and Rada are our powerhouse couple who together create our most popular content series. And I'll throw over to Brooke to talk to you a bit more, but they are currently traveling the length of New Zealand, top to bottom and back up again in an EV. And the idea was to hit every single region across New Zealand and do a series of stories. Brooke has set himself a really ambitious target, 100 videos across 100 days. And he's about, I guess—
He's a high achiever.
He's a high achiever. I'd like to say I did not put this target on him. He put this target on himself. They're about a third of the way through, and the kind of content that is coming through is pretty phenomenal. Which I'll throw over to him in a couple of slides, but segueing into the power of that content, of the success of our Back Your Backyard campaign and the content that Brooke does and the content that the rest of our reporters and the wider newsrooms across Stuff, really, everyone has kind of come to the table to support this initiative. And I think what we found is we have 1.47 to 1.5 million Kiwis who come to Stuff every day, who consume our travel content. And what's been really heartening to see is not only have we had the power to inspire people, but we've had the power to influence them to click through from our story and actually book the experience that we're writing about. So we've had some really great case studies from tourism operators around the country who've told us of the positive impact that just one story has had. We've had small tourism operators tell us that they had 1 or 2 inquiries before our story went live, and now they're booked out for the rest of the year. And that is really our goal. It's our goal to help everyone be discovered. And because we are able to tell really cool stories and we're able to tell that at scale, we have the ability to actually make a real positive difference here.
Yeah, I guess that was the key thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of when COVID hit, and it was sort of that really dialing up the domestic content coverage, which has always been a key focus for us, but the amount of overwhelming feedback,
Yeah, it was quite emotional, I guess, for our team a little bit, because we never really realized that we actually could influence things that directly. Of course, we know travel content inspires people to travel, but suddenly we felt a bit more of a responsibility. People were telling us they were able to keep their businesses afloat. I mean, I know it's probably something that helps for maybe the next few months, and the future is uncertain for everybody, but every little bit kind of helps right now.
And with these individual stories, they were from memory, weren't they, on the actual experience?
Just one story on the experience. Sure. Yeah.
Oh, segueing into the types of themes.
Yeah, segueing into the types of stories that stick. I would say that there's quite a few things that we've learned over time about the content that really works with the audience on Stuff. We like things that we didn't know existed in New Zealand. We like things that are a little bit quirky and weird. We like local personalities, unique places to stay. Brooke, I think, stayed at a treehouse in Northland, I think earlier this year, that most people didn't know existed. Brooke is from Northland and didn't know it existed.
I live 10 k's away from it and I had no idea it was there.
Yeah, and so we like finding those things that nobody knew existed and showcasing them, and that's the kind of content that does really well, because and throwing back to the feedback that Jen had in her presentation as well, is that we had also heard from readers that either they're finding things too expensive, or they're like, I've already done all of this. But so the whole point of our editorial content and the focus of what we're trying to do is showcase the value of travel in New Zealand, because there's a lot of value to be found and people just don't know where to find it. Yeah. So I guess a big part of Brooke's road trip as well is uncovering the parts of New Zealand that you didn't know existed. And I think I will throw to Brooke now.
Yeah, hi everyone. So we are 30 days into our road trip. Rada, who's not here, she's a bit shy of the camera, actually suggested to me this morning if she wanted to put makeup under my eyes, because we are a little bit tired. But we're 30 days into a road trip that was going to be 100 days, but This is the thing about New Zealand that I get so excited about all the time, is that whenever we go to a region, we always find so many extra things that we want to do stories on. And I might have been to that region 4 or 5 times, and then there are just so many extra things. So we keep on extending a little by little. So it maybe might extend. I haven't told Tripti this yet. She's finding out for the first time, maybe 130 days, you know, before. So I've been making content for Stuff, Rada and I, for almost 4 years, and we started off making 1 video a week. And the great thing about Stuff's investment in travel journalism is, through this COVID period, we're actually going bigger than we ever had before. We're now at 5 video-based stories a week, which is just fantastic for us and means we can run through a whole lot extra content. And in that time, in the past 4 years, our videos have got around 55 million views. So they're really popular, and we're really excited about video because it just brings another dimension to the storytelling that we can do. So I just wanted to run through a couple of my more popular stories. The first one being my most popular story I've ever had on Stuff, and that was a story about $10 zip lines and other crazy travel deals. And I guess, as we all know too well, that Kiwis love a good deal. All of our deal stories go well, and I know it's a double-edged sword about discounting prices. So we've seen in market in recent weeks people getting quite creative, like throwing in extra dinners or something that's not going to affect their bottom line too much. But the bottom line is deal stories always do well. The other reason, so this story was actually the top story on Stuff, you know, where breaking news normally goes for a day. So it had so much interest. And I think another one of the magic elements for a popular story was it's an easy escape. You know, we've all had a stressful year. We want something that we can go away quickly to do in a weekend. We're not saving up for that holiday to Europe once a year. We perhaps want 4 or 5 little easier escapes through the year. So that kind of easy sort of $10 zip line, or a night at the Chateau in Tongariro was $80. That was another element of that story. Was really popular. They sold out within a day of the story. Trying something new, the Tourism New Zealand campaign on the ground, when I've been with operators and talking to other people, is just really resonating with people. And especially if there's value in there, Kiwis are more likely to dip out and try something new. And I think the last thing that is really important is that sort of made for social media experience. People are not just wanting to relax or not just wanting to have fun, they're wanting to tell people that they're having fun or that they're relaxing. So, you know, 10, 15 years ago, we would print out the Kodak pictures and 5 of us would look at the pictures after a month in the holiday. Whereas today, you know, people are posting in the hot pool right then and there, and they are looking for a holiday that they can tell people about. So I think that was all some of the elements that really contributed towards that story. Another one, the second one down on that slide there, was a story about Haast. And that was one of the top 10 reads on Stuff for the day. And part of that reason was road trips, as we've discussed earlier on this webinar, are increasingly popular. People are wanting to experience somewhere new. A lot of people didn't have Haast on their bucket list, but they want to go and experience a part of the country that almost feels like they're going overseas. It's that foreign to them. And, you know, Haast doesn't have Wi-Fi or cell phone reception. It's a really interesting place. And it's a great place to escape busyness and stress. And as I mentioned before, it's like a foreign experience. So if we can just go to the next slide, we'll have a look at some of our more popular videos.
Haast sounds idyllic, Brooke, after this crazy year.
Yeah, it really is. There's some real characters down there. It's like the official wear is gumboots and a singlet, even if it's 2 degrees. So our most popular video has been one on Slipper Island. This is a small island out in the Coromandel that got 9.4 million views, and they had more than 1,000 booking inquiries in the 72 hours after that story went out. So the magic ingredients for that one, it was a hidden gem. I don't think a lot of Kiwis know that you can actually rent many private islands in New Zealand. It was a new offer to rent the private island, so that gave it a sort of a newsy angle. And just going back to that value thing I was talking about before, so they priced the island at $2,800. And I kind of sat down and really tried to think of how I could make that sound cheap. I mean, that's a good deal to have an entire island to yourself for the night. But then I asked them how many people could go to the island, and the answer was 20. So I thought, well, it's only $140 per person a night if you bring 20 friends. So that's a really different way to look at it. And all of a sudden, the barrier to entry for that holiday is really low because, you know, most hotels in Auckland are certainly above $140 a night. So that was actually the angle we took, that you can rent an island for cheaper than a hotel in Auckland. And like I say, that was the made for social media type video as well. People will take pictures of themselves there and send it to all their friends, which is great for operators as well, because every person has a couple of hundred social media followers, so that's then going on to them in a free bit of marketing. And another one that I didn't expect, and this is the strength of RADA over me, because my background is a political reporter, so I kind of look at things quite square sometimes. And RADA told me this story would go really well. It was a hot pool in Taupo that you can swim up and get a pizza in a hot pool bath. And I remember we were overseas at the time and I was really tired. I said, I'm not even going to send this story, but we did. And the next morning we woke up, it had more than 2 million views, which was really cool. So it goes into that affordable bracket. It's a quick escape, and yeah, once again is made for social media. So that's a kind of a quick preview of some of the stuff we do.
And it's always so inspiring, Brooke. I'm really excited about, I know that you guys have been at the Park Hyatt recently in Auckland, which is a sensational property that's recently opened. And I guess it's about finding these, hidden gems and new and exciting. And that appealed to me because it looks sophisticated.
Yeah, and I guess what helps as well is we it's a feature story, but we do try to find a news angle, and oftentimes that helps it get onto our homepage, because getting onto our homepage is a feat in itself, because we're often competing with every other editor and stuff to get our content there. So it's down to our homepage editors' discretion as to what they decide they want to put up or not. So we, Brooke has been really great at being able to find angles that we know resonate with everyone. So,
and just picking up on that, Tripti, I mean, when I pitch a story to Tripti, I have to sum it up in one sentence. And that's actually a really hard thing to do. And I think what would really help, we get a lot of pitches, and I think what would really help sometimes is those who are pitching trying to sum up what they envisage the story being in one sentence. And I find it really hard, and I sit here for a long time trying to do it. And a good example of that is we were pitched a nature retreat in Waikanae. Fair enough, that sounds interesting. We went along and it ended up having a spa pool that was a couple of meters off the ground, and we ended up calling it a tree hut spa nature retreat. And that's the kind of one line that I used to pitch to Tripti, and then the story went absolutely wild on stuff, and they got heaps and heaps of bookings. So it's a really good exercise to help sort of crystallize what you see the story being when you're pitching to journalists, is to try and sum it up and create something strong. And actually, often you'll look back at the sentence that you came up with and you'll go, okay, maybe we need to frame this a little bit differently to make this a little bit stronger. Because as Tripti mentioned, on Stuff, we're competing with hundreds of journalists work for Stuff, and we're all trying to get our stories as high up as possible. So it's a good exercise.
I have to say, Brooke, that your recent story and video on the Hamilton Gardens has inspired me. That is the next thing I am doing. Yeah.
And that's, I think, the power of video as well, because I've seen pictures of the Hamilton Gardens and they don't do it justice, and video really helps do things like that justice. So yeah, we're really excited, and where Tripti's been fantastic in pushing a whole lot of video from her staff.
Yeah, and I think, Brooke, even though you say you find it really hard, I think you've nailed it with those one-liners, because now when I get that one-liner, I know that in the middle of everything, it's just a straight up yes or no, and then we can kind of move on to the next thing, which is really, we're quite time poor as journalists because there's always something being thrown at us. So the ability to make a decision quickly is key.
And I just wanted to say too that we're really grateful for, you know, obviously the investment that Tourism New Zealand is developing helps local regions and operators. It also helps us too to be able to produce these stories that share with Kiwis all around the new and exciting things that are in our backyard that we never knew about, or maybe we knew about and we hadn't thought of for some time. I have to say, Dunedin is my new favourite place. I had never been to Dunedin before until recently.
Yeah.
Addicted, have to go back, just saying that. But Brooke, this story was really interesting, and I've got the TNZ logo here because it was one that Tourism New Zealand partnered with us around, and I'll talk you through what that partnership is shortly. But I also wanted to showcase the sort of the general treatment across everything that we create is video, online, stuff.co.nz, print. These are some examples, but it was really interesting, Brooke, to hear around the Dunedin offering you the world, especially with like the pyramids that I never knew existed. Were you guys sort of really surprised and delighted at what you found there?
Yeah, absolutely. And this story did really well because people are wanting to do something new, but they're also wanting a flavour of overseas. So we got the pyramids, we got obviously the castle, the bear experience, i.e. Germany, the Chinese gardens go to China. And we just got so much great feedback from operators as well, messaging in saying that they had results after that and people coming forward and seeing the story and booking. So yeah, that was really...
And obviously I'm not a journalist, but just from an outsider looking in, so it seems to be a thread around what in a one-liner is the hook in an absolute nutshell, and so therefore it might become a bit of an experience-based feature. Or the other thing that obviously seems to be working well is when there's a wrap-up of offering readers a variety of experiences to see and do. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I think we've seen success with both kinds of stories. There are some stories where the angle is so strong that it just kind of works by itself and it's a story just based off that one experience. And there are some stories that fit together, experiences that kind of fit together into this one story that someone might look at this and plan their trip around this entire story. Yep, this was last weekend.
I just put this cover here because I personally love it.
For everyone who's wondering what Brooke's partner Radha looks like, every time you see a blonde woman, that's Radha.
Yeah. And I am looking forward to going to the new Ben Bailey restaurant in the CBD, Ahi, as well too. That's the exciting thing, isn't it? We've got such a wonderful selection of restaurants and, you know, new openings and rediscovering old favourites too. But in that video, Brooke, that was again a bit of a variety of where to eat, sleep, explore in Auckland, wasn't it, as well too?
Yeah, so that story, actually, we started filming this in November, excuse me, last year. And
the story took the longest time to get out. Yeah.
And it ended up being a really good one. And we wanted to compare, the original thesis of the story was to compare Auckland to Sydney, because we did a lot of travel pre-COVID to Sydney. And then the more I got to have a look around Auckland and the exciting things that are happening down in the CBD, the more I thought, well, actually, we don't need to go to Sydney. It's kind of, it's not kind of, it is a fantastic experience going down and having a look around central Auckland. So we wanted to compare Auckland to Sydney, and then we wondered whether that was the right thing to do now that we couldn't actually go to Sydney. But we framed the story in the way that actually, instead of, if you're in Christchurch looking forward to that trip to Sydney, in a similar way, you can look forward to a trip to Auckland. So we filmed over about 3 different trips over 2 lockdowns, some magnificent things to do in Auckland. And yeah, it was a really popular story, despite being the day after the election. It still went really well on the site. So
yeah. Yes. So I guess as we said before, I guess we've been giving you tips about all along about how we like to be pitched to. But I guess the biggest thing really is if you have a compelling story, we definitely want to tell it. But because, to give you an example, I would get probably 10 to 15 pitches in a day from PR people, from freelancers, from contributors, from RTOs, and that is probably in addition to everything else that goes on. So our inboxes are pretty nuts at the best of times. But I think over time we've kind of developed the ability to quickly look at something and make a decision on it and move on. And so the more information that you can include upfront and as succinctly as possible, the easier it is for us to make that decision. And I guess the other thing I'd like to say is because we get so many emails, we often don't reply to all of them, but I definitely want to reassure everyone that we do read every one of them, and it's quite handy, I guess, to have, even if we aren't going to do something on a particular press release, for example, it's quite handy to have that information because you never know when it's going to inform part of another story. So I would say that don't shy away from sending us information. And if you see a way that you can tailor it specifically to, you know what kind of things Brooke does, or, you have a specific journalist whose style you like, we're always open to that kind of thing. That if you want to tailor your pitches to us, you probably have less of a chance of getting ignored that way because you've taken the time, I guess, to understand what we're looking for. Do you want to add anything to that, Brooke? On ways to pitch?
No, that's fantastic.
Would it be worth me jumping in here and saying, just sort of working with RTOs and things too, when people reach out and pitch a story idea, is it worth them sort of sharing a couple of examples of the types of things they would want you to see and do? Because from what I could sort of see, a lot of people, and this is such a Kiwi thing, isn't it? It's like, oh, we'd really love to be covered. Can I send you a press release?
Yeah.
Or we'd love you to come to X. So I guess it's like, just give that information up front.
Yeah.
Be confident.
Yeah, I agree. Because at the end of the day, I think we are all trying to achieve the same thing. So I would say just, don't be shy about sending us anything or pitching anything. Just go ahead and do it.
And that's RADA yet again.
Yes.
But I have to say that I
so photogenic.
Okay, so content marketing. So the difference between, Trupti and Brooke have spoken about editorial. Obviously, editorial is always sort of fairly independently written. Well, it always is independently written. If it's part of a partnership, like what we're doing with Tourism New Zealand, there will be a footnote at the bottom of the piece that says this piece has been produced in partnership with, Tourism New Zealand, and it hyperlinks out to sort of an outline so that readers know straight up exactly what this is and how it relates. But it is important to note that editorial stories aren't pre-approved, they're independent. That's really important for us too, to sort of have that line in the sand. It's not as sort of church and state as what things used to be, but it is still church and state. I know it doesn't, anyway.
The church hangs out with the state a little bit.
Yeah. Whereas content marketing or sponsored content is where you pre-approve it. That's when you would, for example, come and deal with me or someone in our advertising team. If you don't have a contact, by the way, just come and ask me and I'll hook you up with a great person in your area. But essentially we would provide you with a briefing sheet, you complete that, send it back, and away we go. So it's a little bit more of an involved process, but we do have a dedicated commercial content team who are sitting there optimizing stories. They know sort of what angles and hooks and wording connects with our audience. And again, a special shout out with Alan from TNZ, who is my partner in crime on this side of things. So, and thank you to all of the RTOs who are taking part. And And so I asked our commercial content team for a little bit of an outline of what types of themes work well in their experience. Obviously, like I think, you know, we're uploading hundreds of thousands of pieces of commercial content all the time. Yeah, the team's working very hard there. I wanted to share these examples so you can see that the look and feel is very much like editorial, but it does have this label sponsored content here and online in that grey. I'm sure you guys have all seen this before, but again, for us, it's always important to you know, be very upfront and clear with readers that this is paid content or sponsored content, as opposed to editorial, which isn't. And it's quite interesting because it's not to say that sponsored content doesn't go as well as editorial. The two are treated quite differently in terms of how we drive viewers to view these stories. But I think this Dunedin story, for example, sponsored content, did extremely well. And I guess the beauty of what we're doing with Tourism New Zealand is aligning sort of approximate timing. So it's like, you know, if we can kick things off with an editorial piece and then follow that up with something in sponsored content, that for me is just a winning scenario, because I know that whatever kicks off editorially is then also going to resonate from a content marketing perspective. So just a couple of notes here. Hidden gems again, this is a reoccurring theme here. And the interesting part about this is that digitally we included hyperlinks halfway through the article. Now you might expect that by the time you're reading halfway down through the article, maybe your interest wanes, but actually the pyramids and the organ pipes walk received hundreds of clicks, which we found really, really great. Strong imagery is always important. So the more compelling the imagery, the higher people are going to click on pointers to view the article, and the longer they'll spend on the article too. So imagery, and as Brooks pointed out, video content's always really good, and we can help if you need help in that area. And a mixture of activities to suit different styles and providing variety is a good way to hedge your bets. As I've mentioned earlier, Kiwis love to eat. Foodie themes always do really well, but also themes along sort of helping people find out ways to relax and also sightsee are also really popular. And Kiwis love a good quiz. I mean, oh my God, hands up who does the stuff quiz? So many people. And they love a good quiz or a poll or something easy and interactive. So
our stuff quiz is often our most read story on the site.
Yeah.
So.
And anytime I think of a quiz in a sponsored article, I think of Marlborough, because these guys did a quiz and several of you have done since, but it was sort of like tick the pictures or the type of experience that appeals to you, and then when you get to the end of 5 or 6 questions, we'll serve you up the suggested itinerary. And then we can, of course, hyperlink through to the RTO site or activity provider sites from there. And again, most of the digital sponsored content that we do is repurposed across print. We know that there is an unduplicated audience between print and digital, especially if you're looking to target those active relaxers. Newspapers and magazines are a great way to do that. And this really just shows an example of how we drive people to our sponsored content stories. So we call these little windows native drivers, and they are sort of like paid drivers that serve up across our site, or geo-targeted, or targeting an audience group, as opposed to editorial, which is vying for homepage. And sort of the algorithms, depending on how viral things go, that sort of kicks off quite a different way that people find their ways to stories. So that would be the difference of the two, I guess. And then finally, I've mentioned our Tourism New Zealand partnership. Essentially, what this is a mix of sponsored content and editorial partnership content. So it works out to be that every single week there's one story across print and online in one shape or another either through our editorial team support or through sponsor content, which Alan and I work on. Our objective is to span all regions and all RTOs. We understand the need to bring as many Kiwis as possible to your region, and we feel like we're in a position where we can help do that. So as I think Brooks pointed out, he has got, I think he's been in touch, he's got how many RTOs left to go? About 8?
Nine.
So Brooks making his way around the country in a Hyundai EV, and if he hasn't contacted you, he will be doing so soon. So that's really good. We can give nationwide reach, regional depth, again, circling back to our place in market around being trusted and credible as a mirror for New Zealand, connecting with so many Kiwis, around 82% of Kiwis in any given month. We have a centralised team, so Tripti and I, Church and State right here, tend to hang out quite a lot, and we're talking, you know, all the time around what the opportunities are, how we can work together. All editorial briefs go via Tripti, and then all sponsor content stuff comes into me, and then I hook in with our advertising people across the country, just to make it easy. So any questions that you have following the session, reach out to TNZ, but we're also always available to do our best to answer questions that you have. So, in summary, let's get Kiwis to see it, dream it, plan it, and book it. And thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much, team. That was fantastic. Now, I'm just going to quickly jump back in here and share my screen, and our wonderful TNZ PR team, Alan and Lauren, are just going to take you quickly through when I get my screen to work, here we go, the TNZ Content Partnership. So as Angela expanded on, we do have a partnership with Stuff, and so Lauren and Alan will just take you quickly through how you can take advantage of that as well.
Yeah, kia ora everybody. If you haven't met me, I'm Lauren. I head up our global PR at TNZ. I think in a crazy year, this is one of the things I'm most proud of that we stood up this year. I think, Tripti, it was in the middle of lockdown sometime about May or June when we started having this conversation, and it's been really empowering for us. We're only as good as our media partners, and it's been really great for us as TNZ to be able to use our funds in a really positive way, to be able to give back to the industry and help the industry, but actually also help the media industry and keep everybody busy. I swear to God, Brooke has the best job in the country right now. I'm very jealous. I would love to be doing what he's doing. But just a massive thanks to the Stuff team for sharing your tips today, and also just want to kind of reiterate that we can't get enough story ideas, and I'm just going to, for one quick second, put on my global hat as well. Obviously, we're supporting the domestic market as our primary only operational market at the moment, but we are still telling world stories as well. So for all of you on the call, please don't be afraid to share your story ideas, to tell us what you're doing and what's going on. And the best media address for that is media@tnz.govt.nz. That is where you can send all of your story ideas, anything that's on your mind that you might want to talk to us about. And hopefully today you've got some inspiration from some of the expert journalists in this space to help you know what to talk about. But we are talking about domestic today. Like I said, really proud that we've stood up these partnerships. Now, we've brought you the Stuff team today, who we love working with, but obviously we do actually partner with a wider range of media as well. And we're not going to go into all that in detail today, but just to say that this is one part of a bigger puzzle of many different media partnerships. So if you kind of talk to us about what's going on in your world, where your stories are at, what you're interested in talking about, we can help navigate whether that's best, where that best sits, and how it best plays into the calendars and things that we're navigating. So yeah, we're partnering with as many different people as we possibly can across TV, broadcast, radio, print, online, everywhere, to really keep New Zealand moving and keep the industry booming. So yeah, I will hand over to Alan just to talk through how to specifically leverage the domestic partnerships, but can't say that enough. media@tnz.govt.nz if you've got any great story ideas. We love hearing about them.
Thanks, Lauren, and kia ora everybody. My name's Ellen and I'm the PR manager specifically for the domestic market. So work really closely with the great team at Stuff and Lauren as well and the rest of the global PR managers. I know that the Stuff team have touched on their partnership, but we're really proud, as Lauren said, to have a year-round partnership with editorial and paid content, which is really exciting. The key themes are really building on our core domestic campaign, which is Do Something New New Zealand. That can be, as Jen mentioned, something new in your own hometown or in a region you've never been to before. So we're really looking for new story angles and different things that can all build up to that Do Something New. It's across digital and print platforms, so you get a nice spread with radio and social traffic drivers pointing to them as well with different partners. So we really encourage you to get in touch with your RTOs. We're working really closely with the RTOs to identify new things that are happening in their regions. So get in touch with us via media@tnz.govt.nz and get in touch with your RTOs as well. Really keen to get everyone participating and providing some content and ideas for our editorial stories along those key themes. And there are also additional opportunities to sort of activate directly with the publishers via advertising packages. I'm sure Angela would love to hear from you if you had any inquiries around that too. But yeah, get in touch with your local RTO. They'll be able to help if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm definitely available for a chat if you have any thoughts. And I'll hand back to Jen.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. I'm just going to finish off quickly. I'll just do a quick reminder that if any of your colleagues have been unable to make today and you see value and would like to share it with them, you can access all of our recorded webinars. There's a big back catalogue of them on our tourismnewzealand.com website under our industry webinar series. And the next one, Brooke kind of alluded to it a little bit with what he was talking about in terms of deals, but next month on Monday the 16th of November, we have a feature webinar about pricing your product and how to while still be attractive in the market and offer deals, when's the right time to offer deals, when's not, etc. And we'll be using bringing in some pricing experts to help talk about that as well. And obviously there's another layer to it, which is around commissionable sales channels, which has been a hot topic of late as well. So make sure you diarise that, and we'll push it out across all of our publication channels as well, so you won't be able to forget, but keep that one in your diary, Monday the 16th of November. And just before we go, Brooke talked about a little bit in terms of deals and in marketing, and the team at Stuff touched on this as well. We have a fantastic service that's available if you, as an operator, are really looking for support and unsure of where to go to next. If you do need help, perhaps financially or with marketing, or even if you want to delve a little bit deeper into today's topic of you know, the art of great news stories. The Tourism Advisory Service is a fantastic platform for that. It's free. Currently over 1,200 operators have been supported with the service since the borders closed earlier in the year. There is a few different phases of it. The current phase that's been expanded is around website support and marketing. So there's lots of different options, whether it's a group workshop or one-on-one programs. You can register via the Cormark website. There is no requirement for you to be a Cormark member to partake in this program. It's simply that Cormark are facilitating it. So please reach out to them and take that free support, because there is a lot of it on offer at the moment. And that's a nice segue into Cormark. If it's something that you've always been thinking about, we do have free membership with Cormark until September 21. So make sure you jump on their website and register your interest. And a tourism business advisor will be in touch to discuss further about what's required. And it's just a fantastic way of really working on your business, ensuring that you're going to be around for the long term. And that is us. So I see there are a couple of questions, so we'll jump in here. Brooke, you seem to be the hot favourite at the moment. I've got a couple of questions for you. Brooke, are you coming to the Nelson Lakes area, one of our hidden gems? Any plans to come to Nelson Lakes?
Yes, yes. On the ferry on next Tuesday. So I'm not sure what the hidden gems are. Well, we know many hidden gems there, but I'm not sure what Jennifer's referring to, if she's got some ideas. My email address is brooke, brook.sabin, SABIN, @stuff.co.nz. I'll put it in there, actually. I can type the answer maybe, and you please email me, because we're doing all the planning as we go as well, so we can fit things in.
There we go. So he's on his way to Nelson. And then expanding on that, when are you looking to come through the Taufiri Gisborne area? And Sam's noted her contact details there for you as well.
Yeah, and I took Sam's email just before, actually, and that's probably going to be one in January now. We might have to move it, but we're going to try and fit it in late December. So that's one of the 9 we haven't been in touch with. So I'll get in touch with Sam to try and figure that out.
Fantastic, thank you. And then we've got a question at the top here from Joe regarding TNZ. Are most people going to the New Zealand.nz or .com URL for the New Zealand.com landing page? To my knowledge, we don't have a .nz landing page. I believe it's only the New Zealand.com landing page. I think what you're referring to is initially we only had an international version of the page, which sort of spoke in language such as we drive on this side of the road, etc. So very language orientated for the international market. Since obviously the borders shut, we have designed a domestic page for the site as well, and pleased to say that finally at long last search engine optimization have actually started directing Kiwis to the domestic page of newzealand.com, but the website is still newzealand.com and will remain as so. But if as an operator, a little tip for you there, when you're loading an offer, load it to both the domestic and international pages, and that way you've got visibility over both categories. And then we've got a question from Roger. This is a little bit more specific. Despite extensive social media posts and boosting, I'm finding very little engagement or follow-up bookings for our accommodation, a glamping property, which was profiled by TripAdvisor as one of the top 14 most awesome glamping sites, and currently vacant over Labour weekend. So what's needed to help drive that? I'm sure Lauren and Ellen might be able to expand on this a little bit, but as you would have seen today, Roger, hopefully there's a few tips and tricks there about how to get yourself a little bit more visibility in the domestic market through partners such as Stuff. There's also a number of other opportunities, as we talked about as well, using our Do Something New hashtag to get some additional exposure there, and also to leverage any of our work that you see in our media campaigns, for example, that whole have you ever, being able to utilise that language and leveraging those across your own marketing platforms as well. Maybe another one, and apologies, I'm not sure if you're already listed on there, but we've been talking recently with the trip at Canopy Camping, who've had fantastic success and features through there. So if not already listed, perhaps try with them. They are a fantastic facilitator for bookings as well. I don't know if anyone else has got some tips for Roger there they want to share.
Yeah, do you mind if I pop in there?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things we're finding as we're going around is framing an experience. So a good example was when we opened the Hokianga, we went to Waitiri Boulders. Not sure if any of you have been there, but it's absolutely amazing. It's these boulders that come down the valley for 3 kilometres, and they're 2.8 million years old, and they were actually formed by a big lava flow. And I mean, I grew up in Northland, I didn't know about it. I knew about the boulders, and I'd always heard about it, Waitiri Boulders, and I'd never been, despite growing up there. And then I went there, and I was just standing amongst these boulders, and I thought, well, actually, I mean, we've got boulders here, which is not the most thrilling title, but actually what we're experiencing is an enormous lava valley. It's 2.8 million years old. And it's this lava that's just exploded everywhere. And who knew Northland had a lava valley? So I was talking to the owner, who's a new owner, and he was saying he's struggling to get Kiwis interested. And I said, why don't you sort of keep the name, but maybe a tagline, Northland's Hidden Lava Valley, or try and talk up something, as we've been talking about before, something new, something interesting. So I think with the Kissing Gate example, and we see it with a lot of other properties around the country, if you want to talk up, I know they've got hot tubs there, if they want to talk up the hot tub heaven. Another great example is the Secret Spot in Rotorua. I'm not sure if you guys have been there, but it's actually not a secret spot. It's actually next to a mountain bike park and it's quite public. Fantastic product, but they have really nailed the framing, calling it a secret spot. So I think these tourism operators that are struggling to get cut through with the media or with social media need to start looking at their product and looking at different ways they can frame it to get a little bit more interest. So the Lava Valley is a good one. They're actually thinking of changing their name to the Lava Valley because the story was so popular, and we framed it on Northland's Hidden Lava Valley, that they're thinking of incorporating that into the tagline. So I think that can provide a lot of value. Hello?
Apologies, that was user error. I clicked a button that...
I thought I was talking to myself.
No,
you're
sorry. The tabs along the bottom of my screen just suddenly moved as I clicked a button, and sorry. Apologies, I really didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry. I'm not sure. Have we got... Oh yeah, hello. Sorry. Do you want to continue?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say, just to add to that, if you, we probably can't help you out in time for Labor Weekend, but Roger, if you want to email us, we can come back to you with things that we could do for the future.
Fantastic. I think that's excellent. Thank you so much, guys. That's really, really great. And apologies again there. Sorry, user error. Guys, we'll wrap it up there. Apologies, we have gone a little bit over time, but hopefully you found this really, really valuable. As we say, there's plenty of channels for you to reach out through via your RTO or directly to Angela, or you know, Brooke's giving out his email. There we go. So bombard him. So there's plenty of channels there for you to reach out, and of course the team here at TNZ as well. So hopefully you can get plenty of value. But the big ones that I took away were obviously the pitch guides. You know, sum up your story in one sentence. Is it quirky? Is it new? Is it a world first? You know, really shaping that story so that Tripti and Brooke and the team can take a quick glance and go, yes, that's the one for us. So just putting a bit of thought into the email before you hit the send button. But anyway, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you again on the 16th of November for our pricing webinar. And in the meantime, as we say, if you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See ya. Bye.